What happened if human beings live forever? What happened if you never die? Hello and welcome to Z. Don't forget to subscribe. If I asked individuals if they thought we should invest in the science of aging to help people live better and longer lives, it's possible that some people would say yes, while others might say no. But if I asked whether or not we should invest in the fight against cancer, dementia, or heart disease, I think everyone would answer in the affirmative. But these three illnesses, along with a great number of others, have been linked to aging, and combating the various signs of aging is analogous to playing a game of whack-a-mole. You can't be defeated by a single factor. The other thing will, and hence it makes perfect sense, at least to me, that we should try to address the underlying biology of the aging process. In 1910, the average length of human life was gradually increasing. It was formerly believed that the average lifespan of a human in the United States was only 40 to 50 years. In a little more than a century, we have nearly doubled that, with an average lifetime of around 80 years. According to futurist Jamie Metzell, we are working on technologies to extend that even further, and there is a lot of really interesting work. In little over a century, we have nearly doubled that. About sequencing the genomes of people who live into their hundreds to determine whether or not there are any genetic differences between people who live into their hundreds and everyone else. Since genes instruct cells to make proteins, it is important to know what these people's genes are telling their cells to do so that we can determine whether or not we can replicate these kinds of outcomes for everyone else. If we were able to implement something similar across the whole population, we might be able to prevent the death of people in older generations. Would the population of our planet continue to grow? How would this affect the dynamics of families? And what would happen if our healthcare system became overwhelmed? Let's take a look at how we could accomplish it in the first place. In just over 100 years, we've significantly increased the average human life expectancy. Before we get to the repercussions of indefinitely extending our lifespans, let's take a look at how we would do it in the first place. Through increased cleanliness, workplace safety, and most crucially, medical care, we have created therapies for life-threatening injuries, and we have eradicated some of the world's deadliest diseases. But if we want to extend our lifespans even more, we need to focus on other aspects of our health as well. The greatest danger to our bodies is becoming older, and we will have to do something about it, but first we need to comprehend it. What aging is, and there has been some incredible work and great progress in just understanding the basic mechanisms of aging, and there is even a debate going on about is aging. Great strides have been made in just understanding the basic mechanisms of aging. One comprehensive thing, or is it a bunch of different parts, different systems within the human body that are aging at different rates, which is important because you don't want to have one sort of cell that is immortal and another kind of cell that is mortal, because then you'll just be dead no matter what. So there's some very intriguing science about understanding how to do that correctly. How can we essentially change the way that our bodies function? The transition our cells make from the mode of proliferation into the mode of repair. How can we put our cells into a state that is kind of like a screensaver? Yes, it's already begun, and it's all owing to something called CRISPR. Clustered Regularly Interspaced Short Palindromic Repeats is the abbreviation for CRISPR. Never heard of it, and you know what? Neither have I. So let's go back to Jamie Metzell, who is our resident expert, and ask him to explain it. It's a function similar to Microsoft Word's cut and paste capabilities. Genome. The genome is the source code of life, and you can cut it to switch off a gene. You can also add genetic material, and that is what permits us to be able to rewrite genetic code. Having said that, the genetic code is an extremely complicated system, and therefore, people shouldn't even try to imagine it. That we may simply rewrite everything in its entirety. We are just in the early stages of the revolution brought on by genome editing, but things are moving really quickly. If we are able to start removing the genes that are responsible for the majority of our health issues, then one day there is a possibility that we will be able to live in a world where no one ever dies of old age. Wouldn't that be fantastic? But don't get too enthusiastic about it just yet, since, in all likelihood, it won't be that easy. First, let's weigh the benefits of the plan against the potential drawbacks, and then we'll discuss whether or not you still believe it's a good idea. Everyone would be able to live alongside generations of their descendants. As a result, families would have lots of support because parents could have many different grandparents, great-grandparents, great-great-grandparents, and more to assist them. This is the first pro, and it's pretty obvious. We wouldn't lose as many of our loved ones. If we all lived forever, we could start a new generation. People might care more about the future, which means that issues such as climate change would be more important to older people because they would be alive to see the effects of the change. However, as Jamie pointed out, aging is a complicated mix of things, and we won't be able to get rid of all of the negative things at once. Even if we were to eliminate the most dangerous aspects of aging, we might still have to deal with the deterioration of our bones, muscles, and minds as we get older. This brings us to the disadvantages of anti-aging medicine. What good would it do us to live longer if we had to endure pain after a certain age? The older individuals get, the more assistance they will require. There is a possibility that we won't have as great of a demand for hospitals, but the facilities that provide care for the elderly would quickly become overcrowded. Eventually, our population would grow to the point that we would outgrow the available food and other resources. At this stage, there might be some attempt to mandate birth control. And it would most likely not go down well in society. As a result, cities would grow overcrowded, and the likelihood of civil upheaval occurring would likely increase. This is just to be even more depressing. This is predicated on the notion that everyone on Earth will eventually have access to the same piece of technology, but in all likelihood, that is not how things will play out. It's more likely that more developed and wealthy countries will have access to this technology first. Therefore, they would have a head start in creating a population of superhumans, which could be hazardous for the state of international relations. The question that arises for us is how to make intelligent use of this technology, and more specifically, how to make intelligent use of it in a way that does not divide populations in the way that has completely occurred in the past. I mean, back when Europe was further forward in terms of technological development than the rest of the countries in the globe, they used it to invade other parts of the world and slaughter people there. That divide was caused by that, and we don't want that. Simply ensuring that the implementation of our most advanced technologies is guided by our highest and most revered ideals is all that is required of us. Therefore, regardless of whether or not you think that this is a good idea, we will continue. If we are going to try to achieve some sort of immortality, then it is quite evident that we will need a strategy to deal with all that comes along with that attempt. And maybe that plan should involve some of us relocating to our neighboring red planet. Thank you for being with us. Don't forget to like and share this video.